Hello, everyone. Future Tom here again. Unfortunately, it seems like our winning streak with technology, aka Zoom, has kind of come to an end. For whatever reason, we had some issues with the recording that we did for this week's episode, but I was able to cobble together some stuff. So hopefully you'll enjoy what you are able to hear. Anything that I thought sounded a little bit strange, I just cut from the episode, so it might be a little bit short this week. But we're going to try again next week for part two of Dragons. Hope you enjoy part one of Dragons. I did manage to pull out some sections that I'm probably going to toss up as shorts this week. So if you are watching this on YouTube, keep an eye out for that. I wanted to give a quick thanks for people who have been watching the shorts. Those have been taken off, so that's kind of great. Hope you're enjoying and watching and subscribing to the channel, and hope you enjoy.
Hello, Tom.
Hey, Dana, what's going on?
Not much. Hanging out with my loyal listeners, and I'm glad you joined us because they pretty much watched the show just for you.
How long have you been hanging out with the loyal listeners? Because I just got here, so.
Oh, I've been hanging out with them spiritually all day.
Oh,
they may
cool.
not know it, but I am with them.
You know, if you just visualize like the numbers of people that it says have viewed the episodes or listened to the episodes, it's kind of interesting to imagine that like that number of people are just hanging around, listening to us banter back and forth about random toys here on Two Guys Talking Toys.
Right, because in person, I don't think they'd want to speak to us.
I am terrible with crowds. I hate it.
They could turn us off on this.
Yeah.
They can get their fill of us and then come back later.
They can just wander around and they can walk away or come back and go tell their friends like I tell them to every week. They can subscribe to the channel and tell their friends and give us a like, a thumbs up.
I still would like to figure out how to do a live episode one time. I wonder how that would go.
I don't know. I think it's doable.
Yeah.
You would have to set it up because I'm terrible at that. That would be all you.
Well, I just stated that I don't know how to do it, so
you'd have to figure it out. And I might abandon you halfway through because I'm terrible with crowds. So well, you might need a new second guy. Okay. I'll come back later.
All right, sounds good. Did you get anything new this week, sir?
I did. I was randomly in Walmart, which is really like the only way to be in
the
Walmart.
Store you hate but yet frequent.
Yep, because they get what I look for. Sometimes they get what I'm in the market for, and every now and then they'll have something decent, like Studio Series Constructicons.
Oh, neato!
So these are a thing that's happening now.
So do they combine it? Because that would be a pretty big.
That's the plan. I found Scrapper yesterday. There's 5 more on the way. I think. Oh, I think
I talked about Constructicons last week. You got Constructicons, and it always bothered me that even when they combined, they were still small. Like the
original Devastator toy was kind of a little guy, but I mean that was kind of the issue with a lot of the combiners in Generation 1, where he just wasn't quite big enough. I mean, the scale just completely went out the window.
Because in the cartoon he was big.
He was massive, and the scale was never. I mean, even in the cartoon, the scale was always off. So I guess maybe in that way, the toy line was accurate because they're like, we don't know what the character scale is, and neither should you. Watch the cartoon. Scale still doesn't really mean anything, but enjoy the toys. But I am interested in these mostly because the Studio Series is fantastic, and they did the Constructicons in Combiner Wars, and though he's a Devastator is appropriately huge in that line. This is actually small. These are actually smaller. So there were pictures shown of, I don't remember if they were just digital renders of the Studio Series Constructicons all combined into Studio Series Devastator. And he's actually smaller than the Combiner Wars Devastator, which is interesting. But these have more modern engineering. So they've excelled even since Combiner Wars with their depiction and the detailing, and these are very, very cartoon accurate. So they've managed to add a little bit more like articulation to them. And I'm curious. They've bumped the price up. a little bit more, which based on current events, is going to just get worse.
Did you get that email from Big Bad Toy Store? Shameless plug.
Yes. I think the Big Bad Toy Store may have handled, explaining what is going on better than kind of anyone else right now. I've gotten emails,
and I like how they present it as a surcharge.
Yes.
So with the fluctuations back and forth with these tariffs, they can just adjust the surcharge without having to change all the prices.
Yes. It is disappointing that your pre-orders kind of are not safe because of what's going on. What blows my mind more than anything else, and I won't talk about this too long, but what blows my mind more than anything else is the complete and utter lack of understanding that seemingly a majority, I shouldn't say majority, usually the majority is kind of quiet. The loud minority of people who genuinely do not understand what tariffs are, how they work, what they do, and how they affect pricing. So anyway, I
was glad to get the email from Joel. Right? He did a great job of explaining it. So good job.
Yes, I like that they've been keeping on top of it, and they're doing what you can in a cruddy situation that's just going to get more cruddy. But what's not cruddy? Reptilax.
No, he is not. That is
pretty awesome.
That is like old school looking figure. Looks just like he looks like an old school Remco guy.
He does, and he's one of those snake men that's kind of based on sketch art. Like we wasn't in the original line. He's just like kind of
it also sounds like something you would use to help a constipated lizard.
You having trouble with your lizard passing, having some bowel troubles? Get Reptilax. He'll come in, he'll hold his hand, he'll work him through it. It's a very positive product. And he identifies with your iguana while he's having a hard time. But yeah, these are really cool. And I want them to keep doing this. I want them to keep making, especially with Snake Men, because they're my favorite. Keep making all of any sketch, any of the unreleased, any of the concept Snake Men. Keep cranking them out, please. They've done a good number of them, and there's still some left. There's still just a couple left, and they've been going with the concept series. Like the Concept Cyclone is on the way, and on his box was teased Concept Too Bad. So I really hope that keeps coming out. Speaking real quick of the concept series, one of the other things that I purchased was from the Target Bullseye eBay account, where you really just roll the dice. I got myself another super duper cheap concept Hordak and Grizzlor. So that was
nice. They are warming the shelves on Target. Those should go. But Adam and Cringer took forever to go on clearance. So who knows?
Yeah. Now, if I imagine it's probably hitting most Targets now. But like if you go to your Target now, you can get your Adam and Cringer for. I was just there today after we had lunch. They were $14.
Yeah, they're out of them in here in Riverhead. But if I see them again on the shelf for $14, I think I'd get another one.
Yeah, I picked up an extra just to see if I can turn Cringer into a tiny younger Panther. Plus, if you're still looking for that Skeletor Demigorgon 2-pack, $10. $10 at Target. Deluxe Transformers have dipped down. The most recent Legacy Wave has dipped down to 7 something. So I picked up an extra strong arm to see if I can turn her into Smallfoot. So I've got a box to open because of course I do, and I believe most of the boxes that I'm going to be getting in are from the Marvel Legends Nemesis Wave. Let's see which one this is. Oh, this is both the best and possibly most boring one, Cyclops.
Cyclops.
Well, I got me a Cyclops, but that effect blast though, that is fantastic.
Yeah, that makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, so he might be going up in the booth next week because I don't want him, but I do want that Nemesis arm because I need him to make my big old Nemesis. So that'll be fun. But yeah, the effect. Oh no, I might be keeping him because I want that effects part. I don't know if anyone's going to want to buy him without it. That's really the only reason people are buying this Cyclops.
Right, and nobody wants another Cyclops.
Yeah, there's so many. there's so many of them now. And I mean, I forgot which costume this is based on, but maybe people want him for that costume and he fits in. And but because I know people build very specific X-Men teams, so. If you want like the Jim Lee group and you get all of them, and if you want like the Astonishing or Uncanny, then I mean, I guess, but I don't care the other. So he may still go up in the booth minus an arm and an effects blast, but I'll price him at like $7, and people can get themselves a $7 Cyclops to join the other hordes of Cyclopses. So what did you get this week? Did you get a Cyclops?
I did not get a Cyclops, and I got something a little weird out of the ordinary, and then I pulled a Tom today. But I was wandering through Target, and something caught my eye because it had a bat symbol on it.
Oh.
And, of course, I'm drawn to the bat symbol.
What was her name? I'm sorry. That was inappropriate.
Well, here, and I've often wondered, like, what would it look like if I were Batman?
Okay.
And now I know. It would look like this.
Aw. That's Batman after he's had a long night. That is rough. Alfred needs to bring him some tea stat.
A fuggler.
Wow. Is that the official name, a fuggler?
Yeah. These little plush guys. I've seen them before. I never paid them much attention. Like you walk by and you're like, oh, that thing's kind of ugly. The teeth are horrifyingly realistic. But they got the DC license. Apparently, they've done him, Harley Quinn, the Joker, and I forget maybe a fourth one. But yeah, and the eyes also you're not seeing them very well. But there's like a pupil in there. But those teeth are plastic and just
AKA British Batman.
It looks like Bat Lamprey, like.
he will latch on to you and suck your blood.
And the thing I thought so ridiculous that I had to get it. It was $10. I was like,
$10, not bad.
Had to get it.
Hello, crime doers. It's me, Batman.
It's terrifying. His mouth isn't even centered on his head.
I do like it. It's got that Wallace and Gromit style where it's just kind of up on the side.
Yeah,
that is funny.
Yeah, and then I pulled a Tom today. I bought a toy that I already had, but
hey, you can't go wrong with that sometimes.
It was in fantastic shape and in a bin for $5. I had to get another Zod monster.
You can't go wrong with a $5 Zod.
Look at the stickers are in perfect shape. That is in
fantastic shape.
The claws and the teeth still good.
And there's not much scuffing on the plastic. Like the plastic still looks really good. There's like a little bit of dust.
He had a little bit of dust, in the nooks and the crannies, which is the second time we talked about nooks and crannies today. But yeah, fantastic shape, looks good. I haven't put batteries in it yet to see if he, does the whole.
You have to let me know after.
I do it like that. It looks like he's twerking, but that's not what he does.
The original twerk machine, Zod.
Yeah, and usually these stickers along here are missing for some reason along the nose ridge. And
make sure you call me when you're about to put the batteries in, so I can then call for help if he just activates on his own.
Yeah,
he might give you a good thrashing, or at least
I don't have the spear, so if he starts,
you can't stop him. He's unstoppable.
Yeah. But I love Zod Monster, and I can't pass one up that looks this good.
That was in fantastic shape, and no fingers are safe when Zod gets going.
And this absolutely did not fit in with the rest of the GoBot lines. I'm sure Tonka picked it up from someone else. You know what I mean? But
you know what? That's a good question. I don't know if Zod was designed originally for the GoBots line. Because as far as I know, it's a wholly original concept. I don't know of another toy line that he would have come from. I could be mistaken, or I may just have never come across it in my GoBot travels. But
because we discussed that weird. This is clearly a seat.
Yeah,
and like none of the GoBots, even the giant size ones.
Yeah,
like you could see, like legs would go here, and they would sit, like some sort of monster ride, but. And then the bottom, the funny thing is, it says Tonka Corp, 1983, all rights
Mhm.
reserved, 248 patent pending,
Uh-huh.
made in Japan. So I thought the patent pending was interesting.
Yeah, you don't see that very often. Usually
Oh,
they're good to go.
yeah, usually by the time it hits the market, you would figure they had a patent. But
It, it
everything
that,
looks pretty good inside. I think the batteries should work.
uh,
So,
I am looking forward to getting reports. Like I said, get me on the phone. I'll make sure I call for help just in case.
yeah, and we were looking at the engineer, and you're not going to be able to see it on the camera, but how, in order for this to work, the thing would move, and there are teeth over here that lock. So
Yeah,
when it would move forward, the wheel would move and turn forward. And then when it's time to rear up and do its craziness, it would lock, that would move back, and then the wheel wouldn't roll backwards. It's really cool.
I think I may have already mentioned this to you. I One of my old roommates was telling me as a kid he had Zod, and when he went to activate it and turn it on, it genuinely frightened him at how
Oh, yeah.
violent and how strong the motion on
And
that
it's
thing is.
loud. That
Yeah.
plastic clacks and clicks
So
and
the
clacks.
the battle to hit that button and turn them back off is real,
Oh, yeah.
especially if you're like a young person and your fingers are a lot more susceptible to that joint than a grown up.
Right. If you haven't developed your fine motor skills, and that poking that thing's difficult.
So one of the things that I like the most about Zod is that he's like a mini mon. Like we don't quite know exactly what he is. He's got the claws, so he's definitely like a like reptilian of some kind. And he kind of looks like maybe like part dinosaur, part dragon. And dragons are what I want to talk about this week. I love dragons of all shapes and sizes. You'd be hard pressed to find a dragon that you would look at and be like, "That's stupid," or
Yeah,
"That's dumb."
absolutely. I
They're
agree.
just
Even
inherently
like
cool.
even the little cheap rubber ones that you find at like Walgreens,
Yeah,
I still and yeah, I look at them all. I love all dragons. I love Ricky the Dragon
it,
Steamboat. I love Bruce Lee. You name them.
I, even Iron Fist had to fight a dragon to get all the cool powers.
Right.
Sadly, I don't. I'm sure that dragon has been depicted in Marvel, but I couldn't tell you what it looks like to save my life, which is unfortunate.
Um, yeah, it varies. Sometimes it looks like Shenron. Sometimes it looks.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, one of the most cultural, one of the biggest cultural booms in the United States, Dragon Ball Z. Not the original. It took me a while to find the original Dragon Ball, but the Dragon
Mhm.
Ball Z series, all based around finding the Dragon Balls to unleash super cool looking Shenron.
Right.
And I always thought it would be funny if you did all this stuff and you committed all these horrible crimes against humanity to get all the Dragon Balls together, and Shenron shows up, and you're like, well, what happens now? And he's like, now you've seen me. Well, bye. Just leaves. The whole
That's
quest is
enough.
just to look at a really cool dragon.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought there was more to this, but I was
that's like
mistaken.
how I spend my day. I walk outside. I let the world behold me. And then I'm like, "You're welcome, mankind." And then I just walk back in the house.
There is a wrestler from NXT. I think his name was like Dijakovic or something, and he yelled
Sounds like a
like
disease.
he'll do some move or like some impressive backflip or suplex or whatever, and then he yells, "Feast your eyes," and it
Like,
continues on, and that's
are you
that's what
not
we do.
entertained?
But yeah, there's so I'm glad you originally shifted it towards Marvel because Marvel's got some amazing dragons,
Yeah.
specifically Fin Fang Foom,
Bing,
who
bang,
I
boom.
who I love. I don't know who came up with him. Whoever it was, thank you.
It's
He's
three F's in a row. It had to be Stan Lee.
that sounds about right. Or Jack Kirby and Stanley's like, print it, it's mine. Great, love it. But
Hey, now.
and I don't even know all that much about the character aside from him being a super cool, awesome dragon. Which I guess is all you need. And he wears the purple pants because giant green people need to wear purple pants.
Right. He
But
doesn't always have purple pants, though.
yeah, sometimes he's just a dragon in the buff. Other times he's a little modest, so he throws some. I think
Right.
the Build-A-Figure of him
Well,
does
he's,
not have
he
shorts.
wanted to make it easier to find the Dragon Balls.
Yeah, listen, you can't you can't just grab and you can't just look for any.
Come on,
It's
I had
got
to
to
go
be.
there.
But he's one of those figures that is. I don't remember if he came towards the end of the Toy Biz. Oh no, or was he the beginning of the Hasbro line? Who did the Hulk wave? Because he was part of that wave, wasn't he?
Right.
I want to say Toy Biz.
I want to say it was Toy Biz because they were still doing the big Build-A-Figures, like
Yeah,
real legit Build-A-Figures. Yeah.
yeah. Like I remember him being a build a figure for that. I want to say it was the Hulk wave, and I just was not. They were for some reason very scarce in my area, and
Yeah,
I
I
wasn't able to
saw
find them
parts.
all.
I bought them as a whole. I got
Mhm.
lucky and found
Yeah,
them as a whole and bought them. Um,
I
but
I
Marvel
kept
has a
them.
bunch of cool, like they did that Shang-Chi one from the movie.
Yeah,
Um,
I wish that had like I know why he was produced the way that he was produced. You know, they
right.
wanted to move some units, want to make him fairly simple, but I always wish that he had a little more articulation
Right.
to make that. I know that the action feature was kind of interesting. You could stand him upright, and he had kind of the oversized head, and he did look kind of cool, but it just wasn't quite enough.
Right. It was
Uh,
not quite there. It wasn't bad,
yeah,
but it wasn't quite. I know they
which
had to
is
make it something affordable, you know.
yeah,
Um,
which is funny because Fin Fang Foom also, well, even that Build a Figure, as much as I wanted to get it, I've never owned it. I know that it was available on AliExpress as like a replica. The proportions are a little weird. Like the head seemed a
oh,
little
I
bit
think it's perfect.
oversized.
I think it's perfect. Yeah, but dragons are often depicted that way.
Yeah,
You know,
some of it has got to be like the foreshortening as well, and you know, they're giant creatures you have to fit onto the page. But I always
right. But even like in classic art, Chinese and European dragons seem to have that big, you know, pit bull head.
there was a display at I think it was I want to say it was a San Diego Comic Con. I could be mistaken. But they had a unreleased orange version of Fin Fang Foom that was
Oh,
planned
that
for
was
Marvel
cool.
Universe. Yeah, he looked great. He had like it was like orange with yellow highlights, and he looked amazing. I know that Fin Fang Foom has been depicted as orange before. There
Mhm.
seems to be like a mini debate over whether or not that would have been meant for the to be like the Midgard dragon or if it was
Hmm.
him. But he also doesn't look anything like the Midgard dragon, so I'm not quite sure why that's the argument.
Right.
But he looked awesome, and I'm sad because apparently the plan was after we got the Sentinel and Galactus in the Marvel Universe line, he was going to be next, and
Oh, that
that
would
would
have
have
been
made
cool.
perfect sense with the scaling to have the 3 3/4 figures with that version of Fin Fang Foom. That would have been amazing, and I
Yeah, that would have been
kind
cool.
of wish they would do it.
I
Question
remember.
time come early.
Wow. Okay.
Question time come early. Would you support a HasLab for a giant Fin Fang Foom?
Yes.
Like $200. You
Yes.
get you a big old
Yeah. If it was like the Galactus or the, I
yeah.
mean, that would be amazing. Yeah, I'd be on
Give
the board
me
for that.
do it, Hasbro, because they're doing Dragon Man, another cool dragon
Right.
character who's getting a revamp in Marvel Legends. That's another one. I don't own the original because he was crazy hard to get a hold of. He was
Right.
in
I
that
mean, I own the
Fantastic Four
original,
line.
the Toy Biz one.
Really?
Yeah. Not the Marvel Legend one, the Toy Biz.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do remember that one coming out. Because he had like the
Yeah.
he had the tongue lasher action going
Yeah. Yeah.
on.
Yeah. He did. You know who else had a Dragon Man in their line was the Dragon Riders of the Sticks.
I
Yeah.
do not recall this.
Yeah. There was a
Give me
Dragon
all the
Man.
details.
I love Dragon Rise of the Sticks. In fact, they're one of the lines that I want to get more of.
Mhm.
And I used to see them all the time when Mike and Lori had their place over at Sunset Mall.
Mhm.
Um, that's Milo Collectibles in Oakdale now. Shameless plug. Um,
We got to get back there one day.
we do. Um, yeah, Dragon Rise of the Sticks were 4-inch figures. We used them with the Dungeons and Dragons figures. They came out in
Okay.
like 82, 83. Dungeons and Dragons came out like 83. Of course, we have to talk about them as well.
Mhm.
Um, and Dragon Man was, you know, he stood upright. He didn't have a tail, but he had a big old dragon head.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
had a
The
Black
giant
Knight
dome.
and the Wizards, but he was one of my favorite characters. Was Dragon? He's the one I saw in the store, and I was like, I don't know who these toys are, but I'm
Oh.
buying this Dragon Man. And
Mhm.
then I found the rest of them, and they had two dragons that I can recall. One was green, like, obviously he was a green, fairy tale looking dragon with the wings that would snap off, and he had a little seat where you'd sit the guys. But the coolest thing about them is when you turn them on, like they had a little on switch, and then I don't know if you ever had one of these toys. They have wheels, but they're on a spinning disc on the
Oh,
bottom. So it'd be
okay.
like two wheels in the back, and then towards, three-quarters of the way in the center, there'd be a thing that would just spin kind of randomly. And so the dragon would be doing this, like going in
Huh.
all different ways. So once you turned them on,
Mhm.
that little thing would start spinning. It would go
Mhm.
left, it would turn right, it would be, almost jerky like the Zod monster.
Yeah.
But you could put your figures up, you stand them up, and you turn this guy on, this dragon, and he'd be going every
Mhm.
which way, looking like he's
Huh.
just going through the battlefield, killing everybody.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I
That is.
can't remember the name of that dragon, but then there was another one called the like Serpent Rider or something, and
Mhm.
it had two heads, right up your alley. And
Fantastic.
it was like a gray color with red eyes and like red
Mhm.
underneath, or maybe orange. I don't know, but again, same bit. Like it had you'd put a guy in there and you'd spin him around. Yeah, Dragon Drive the Six had a Black Knight, they had the Wizards, they had a Barbarian,
That's awesome.
Dragon Man. They're very cool
Mhm.
figures. They're very cool.
Mhm. That sounds like I'm not sure how apt the comparison is. But that with the spinning motion reminds me of dragonflies. I remember the coolest thing was there was a dragon made for there was a dragon mount that they had made for that, and he was almost like a portable station where you could put a dragonfly guy on top of him, and his seat doubled as the mount, so you would pop him on, and then you could pull his tail, and the tail would be the ripcord, and he would send his whoever was seated on him flying off in the air.
Oh, that's cool.
And my thought process was, well, he doesn't want anyone riding on him, so if you put that guy on there, he's just going to eject him. So when
like a bucking bronco.
Yeah, how long can you last on top of this dragon? So I remember when I got him,
If the movie 8 Seconds was about that, I would have watched it.
It would have been a better use of their time, and probably would have been an overall better movie. And I remember getting this, and immediately, like, I opened him up, I grabbed the dragonflies that came with them, threw them in the trash, and just played with the dragon because that was the best part of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When I was a kid, anything that had a dragon got me excited. You know what line really got me excited? I get to talk about Crystar again.
I love that Crystar is your Battle Beast / Sector for me, or Cronenberg.
We don't have to go into details, but the Crystal Dragon and Lava Dragon. My favorite thing about him was the Lava Dragon had like multiple, like had legs that stood up, and then had like two sets of arms, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But I always loved that the mouths were designed to put a guy in. Like
yes.
They were designed to eat somebody.
They were always going to be in
rocks and crystal. I don't know how that worked out, but
they're always going to be in mid-chew, no matter what you did with them.
Yeah. I mean, they were like sculpted to fit the guy right in there.
The 80s and 90s was like ripe for dragon, like dragon-based toys. Remember, Knights of Tirnanog? I think it was called Tira something, Tiramisu. And they had a really cool looking dragon named. I think it was
they really
like
did
Tiger or something. He had like the swords in his wings, and because Bandai made them, because Bandai produced them,
the dragons were the only cool thing about that line of toys.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you anything about the rest of the line aside from the really cool black and purple dragon. That was well, I guess he was more of a Hydra than a dragon, but still, he was a reptilian looking beast. He looked super cool. I think it was like, what was it called? Like, he wanted to say Trevor. That's not his name. It was like Tevron or something. It started with a T. T-E, and had like a V in it.
He had a little sweater that you tie around his shoulders.
He's very preppy. You're like, you are not what I expected when I got the Dragon Balls together. This is not what I had in mind. But he was a really cool looking, like the design on him was really cool because you had the mounted like skeleton Night Warrior on him, and where there would normally have been wings, there were just two extra serpents that sprang out of his shoulders. But those also had wings on their sides, but they were removable, so you could pop them off for like a secret attack or something.
That's cool.
Oh, the Dragonheart line did that too. Or I think it was called. who was what was
The movie Dragonheart?
yeah, with oh, who wasn't it like he was the last dragon, and it was not the cool one with Bruce Leroy, but the other one with Sean Connery that did the voice of the
Right,
dragon.
yeah, and Sean Connery as the voice of the dragon was perfect. They should have
I
stopped that. Like that, the only reason to watch
th-
that movie is because the dragon is animated really well,
I've
and
actually never seen it.
Sean Connery's doing the voice of the dragon.
Mhm.
Uh Phenomenal. I hate the bad guy dude in there who was in a couple other
Mhm.
movies after that. God, I hated that guy. But
Wait, so the bad guy in that movie is not another dragon? It's just a guy?
yeah, like the
Really?
guy who wants the throne and blah
So
blah 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 blah.
disappointing.
Well, how's it going to
I,
be another dragon? He's the last dragon. But
I thought
but
I
they
thought that
made
would have been
sequels with other dragons, so I don't know how
I,
they wrote that in.
yeah, I thought that would have been the twist where like he thought he was the last dragon, but in fact there's another one that shows up and he's like, we can be friends. And instead he gets attacked because there's another dragon in that toy line that's called the Medusa dragon.
Right? Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe there was. I
No,
mean, I saw the
I
movie
think
one time 477 years ago, but
I think you're 100% correct because this sounds very because this came out in the 90s, right?
yes.
This would 100% have been what the movie. But I trust your recall on this because it came out in the 90s, and that's exactly how they would have played it. Going back real quick to Knights of Tirnanog or whatever they were called, because and I actually wound up. I remember at some point
The
I
Knights
had
of Shanana.
that would have been a fantastic show. I don't know. I don't know what the Knights of Tirnanog or Tirnanog was about when it came out because I know there was a show that went along
Yeah.
with it. I never watched it, but if it was based on Shanana, it probably was a fantastic show.
Yeah,
Just with dragons.
Dragon Bowser, but there was a guy named Bowser. I mean, Dragon would look like Mario Bowser.
But the Bondi made that toy line, but they also made the Power Rangers toys, which well, we can also explore into that.
Right.
When they did, there was a line called Power Rangers Mystic Knights, where they retooled and reused the mold that they had for Pyre from, at least I think it was called Pyre, from Knights of Trinidad to just be random Power Ranger dragons. There's a
That's
green
cool.
one. I think there's a green one. There's a red one. Then I stumbled across it on eBay, and my immediate thought was, "Holy cow! They repainted him. When? When did this happen?" Because I absolutely.
Right. Well, why would it
him.
happen? Yeah.
Why would it happen? Was there a Knights of Tirnanog Redux and I didn't know about it? No one told me. How dare you? But yeah, it popped up in the Power Rangers line, which, man, I remember when they introduced the Green Ranger in Power Rangers. And I had no real interest in Power Rangers when it first showed up because I was collecting other things. But I remember, and the show is what it is. It was aimed at who it was aimed at. It did a good job. But I remember randomly catching the episode where the Green Ranger shows up, and I'm a sucker for the equal evil mirror person based on back when they didn't do it all the time. Like this was also like a new-ish thing that you didn't see that often. So the Green Evil Ranger, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then he called forth the Dragon Zord. And man, does that thing look cool. What an awesome design. What an amazing looking robot. And I never wanted to see it in when he turns good and it gets like its robot form or like its good robot form and the mouth opens and there's a visor mask. I never wanted any of that. I just wanted him to stay as the cool, clunky looking dragon who had the Mechagodzilla finger missiles. Like just give me that all day long.
Why would you change out of dragon form? That would be silly.
I would never do it. That's almost like if I were in the world of Voltron, I would be that guy who would never want him to fully transform into Voltron. That last part when Keith forms the head,
and he opens his mouth.
Say it. Yeah, close the mouth. Keep it closed. I don't need to see a human face.
Close your mouth, Voltron.
Shut your mouth, Voltron. And you see it with a lot of, especially with like a lot of like Sentai style shows. Wild Force did that when they had the Predazord, where when he showed up and he's evil, he had this really cool looking like evil cat head. And then when he becomes a good guy, the mouth opens and there's like a face inside the mouth. And I was like, no, that's not as cool. But,
no, it's weird.
But yeah, like the Dragon Zord was super duper cool. And when they introduced Serpentera, that was even more cool because it was like a flying mobile base for Lord Zed, I think. And it would show up where he was like the destruction engine that he would call for to just wipe everything out. And
it's
it was
the job I want.
Yeah, that should be who like you should be the guy they send in who they don't want to see. And you show up and you're like, I'm the one that they call when there's a problem. So clearly there is a problem. And that's Serpentera's role, because she would show up, wipe everything out, and then go about her way. But I remember getting the toy for that, and it is massive and it is super duper cool. And it's one of the best mechanical looking dragons that I've seen.
That's cool. I'm not really. I don't believe I've ever watched an episode of Power Rangers. I saw the movie when it came out, the newer one. But yeah, I don't believe I ever watched an episode.
Newer one's a little rough.
Yeah, it is. It is. So we would be remiss, obviously, if we didn't speak about Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, 100%.
And they had some cool dragon toys, but one stood up far superior from the others. And I mean, in detail and design, even better than Tiamat. Like, Tiamat was the one that nobody had. Because I don't know, I never saw it in the store. And if you did, somebody else bought it. And then there was the Golden Dragon, which was, of course, Strongheart's dragon that he would ride on. But then there was a dragon who didn't belong to anyone. And it was sort of this feral dragon named Dragoon. And it was, and still is, a beautiful toy. It has this kind of lion head. It's cream colored and has these gold highlights down it. It's got this whipping, whirling tail, articulated arms, like gold scaled chest with this like cream colored back. Dragoon is one of the most stunning dragon action figures ever made.
I don't think I've ever seen, but I wasn't super huge into Dungeons and Dragons, so I'm not surprised that this description is news to me. Like I remember Tiamat,
right?
But there was a 5-headed dragon that I remember being in the toy line, because I had it, and me being a connoisseur of character names, just called him 5-headed baby dragon. But I remember that being. I was really impressed by him. I mean, he had like a really cool tail with kind of a flattened disc at the end. And I, for whatever reason, don't recall Tiamat. Like I knew who it was. I didn't remember there being a toy made of that character until Super 7 came around. Are you getting the gigantic $300? I think it's $300. Tiamat.
I wish I were, but no, I'm not committing to that yet.
No, not for you. I understand.
I've got to get my Jeep fixed first.
That's understandable, and I'm still saving my shekels for a cat slayer. That's my big purchase, and if I am to make a big purchase in the near future.
But when we get off here, look up Dragoon. It's an impressive. It's like a cat dragon. It's really cool looking. I really do. It's one of my favorites.
Now the question is he cooler than Granamir from He-Man? Because he was like, growing up, he was one of my favorite dragons. Yeah, and I never understood why he didn't get a toy in the original toy line.
No, he didn't. But if he did, he wouldn't have looked as good as Dragoon.
Really? Oh, that is some high praise, because Granamir is pretty awesome looking. I thought it was. I do appreciate that he finally got a figure in the Masters Universe Classics line.
Right, and it's a cool figure.
For better or worse, he does look very, very like cartoon accurate. He's got kind of like the granddad build. Despite him looking really cool, when you turn that into a physical object, it's a little weird. And then you have him, because he's meant to be sitting, and I'm sure that's on purpose. So if we did get him as a toy, it probably, like, if we got him in the 80s, it probably would have been as a play set, kind of like how Mum-Ra's Tomb had the gator and the bull creatures, where they had some action features, but they weren't a fully articulated figure. I imagine if we ever got Granamir in the 80s, he would have been maybe like Granamir's lair, and the lair would have been the play part, and he would have been like kind of coming out of the side, and you could move his head and the rest of it.
Yep.
But in classics, when he came out, I remember seeing the pictures of him, and like sitting kind of like a gargoyle, he still looked every bit as imposing and cool. But when you stood him up and he had like the granddad legs all extended and the long kind of bony arms, you're like, oh, Granamir. He is many, many, probably millions of years old, so he's not in his prime anymore. Sure, why not? That's what happens to you. I always wish that they would have introduced him in the 2000X series, which also had dragons. There's an episode dedicated to them, and they were very much inspired by Granamir, both in like the color and kind of the overall shape of the heads. And I remember wishing that one of those would have shown up in the other's bow, and that would have been Granamir, and maybe we would have gotten a toy of that, because the Four Horsemen were on top of everything.
Yeah, they should have. Get your people on that, Tom.
Kind of wish that would have happened. Same thing for the Revolution. He's in Revolution, and they jazzed up the design, and he looks a lot more
passed right over him. Yeah, he had a huge part.
I kind of wish that we had gotten a toy from that as well.
Yeah,
because unlike what some people would have us believe, the He-Man line is not dead. It still seems to be going pretty strong to me.
Yeah.
Even if you move past that like 5-year point where this first started, still going.
I bought one dragon, the Golden Dragon, from McFarlane's Dragon line.
I remember his dragon line, but I never got any of the dragons. They look great, but my thing was I could buy a dragon statue from anywhere.
Right, and I bought it because it was on. I found it somewhere on a sale online. It was like $15 or something, and I was like, "They're really neat for $15. I'm going to get the golden one." And it comes with the stand where you can make them flying, and it's a beautiful figure. It really is. I never bought them because I was afraid of the McFarlane, plastique. And they weren't really articulated. Yeah. They can kind of, you know what I mean. But
you're really taking a risk.
But they are really, really nice. They look good, and the one I have, it holds up. It looks good. I don't mind it.
You know who holds up as an amazing dragon and was one of my first exposures to dragons of any kind is King Ghidorah, who is one of my, if we're talking dragons, just one of my favorite. Like I love. Right, he's so good. Everything about King Ghidorah is amazing. Comes from outer space. Causes the lore that has been shored up about him, and for all of my issues that I have with the U.S. King of the Monsters movie, it's like it added all this extra kind of cool lore to him that he. Even in the original series, he comes from outer space. He's not supposed to be here. And I liked how in the Legendary movies that was kind of built upon. Like his appearance affects the atmosphere. His being around creates storms. He can control lightning to a certain extent. He shows up as a literal foreign element in a natural ecosystem and throws it into chaos. He's the quote unquote, and if you bring it up to that higher level, that weird kind of metaphorical thing, he's a false king who showed up to usurp the real one, and it's awesome. But even in just the original Godzilla series, just the Showa series, he's the main antagonist. If you just needed something new, or you needed that final boss to show up, every other monster that Godzilla fights is almost like mid-boss level. And then when King Ghidorah shows up, you're like, oh, it's getting real now, because King Ghidorah is here, and that's a problem. Which makes Destroy All Monsters. Look, I love the Marvel Universe and the cinematic universe and their lead up to an Infinity War and Endgame and all that fun stuff. But you know who did it first and did it best? The Showa Godzilla series.
Yes, absolutely.
All those monster movies are interconnected. They reference each other. Gigan shows up, and then he shows up again. Mechagodzilla shows up, and he shows up again to terrorize everybody. But it takes all these monsters to come together. It's also the first time I had ever heard the term Mortal Kombat, because the English dub of Destroy All Monsters shows all the monsters coming together. There's a narrator. I love that there's a narrator talking about what's going on, and he's like, Godzilla's shown up.
It should have been Howard Cosell.
That would have been amazing. I also would accept Howard Finkel from WWF. Yes. And this guy is like, Godzilla will lead these monsters against King Ghidorah in Mortal Kombat, or something along those lines. And I was like, oh, yeah, he will. I've said it before, and this will lead us to like the next dragon people, but I want a King Ghidorah shaped head to go on this guy. Kind of same coloration. He doesn't have to be gold, but
Mhm.
done up in these colors, I think that would look awesome. And the four horsemen who have done just a bang up job with Mystic Knights. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
I apologize. It's not Mystic Knights. I'm hung up on I'm hung up on Mystic Knights of Tirnanog. Mythic Legions. I apologize. There's the Whiplash homage that also
Mhm.
has the dragon head. There's a blue dragon. And because they knew everyone wanted it, they just recently started selling their own upgrade kit that gives you a dragon head and tail
Oh,
for this
Nino.
guy. So I'm excited for that. Like that should be amazing. But yeah, like the Four Horsemen doing dragons like Mythic Legions, they just recently finished a gigantic dragon of their own called Baethir, I believe. Massive, massive. I think he was $500. They did have stretch goals. One was open wings. I think one was a head with a different expression on it, or an open mouth. They had a couple of extra figures for it. Yeah, and he looks amazing. And I wish that we would have been able to go to Legion's Con. I bet you if we go to any Legion's Con going forward, they'll have him there, and you get to see like just how immense. And it reminded me of the descriptions that I read online of people who got to see it in person. Reminded me of the description of Cat's Lair, where they said, no matter what you see online, it does not compare to seeing how massive this is in person. And it looks amazing. I'm glad they were able to get it out. I know
Right.
that it's a crowdfunding thing. It's made to order, so that's it for the green one. There has been talk of them wanting to do. I'm sure there'll be different color versions that they'll probably try and do another one maybe a couple of
Yeah, of
years from
course,
now.
especially if it's a success.
Yeah, and it hit its goal. It unlocked all its tiers, and I don't know what the final number was that they finished at, but I love that people can now have a dragon that is the size of a coffee table just
Mhm.
hanging out in their house.
And everybody should.
Yeah, that should be, if you don't want a dog, if you are a weird person and don't want a cat, then get a $500 dragon.
Sure, why not?
Keep them in the house.
You know what line of toys was fun, and the original animated series series of movies is phenomenal, and I don't think you've watched it yet, but you need to. Is How to Train Your Dragon.
You are correct.
The storyline over those four films, Tom,
Mhm.
is amazing. The animation is beautiful. The variety of dragons, phenomenal. And they've had multiple lines of toys, different ones. They had ones for little
Mhm.
kids, and then they had ones that were a little more
Yeah.
articulated and better. And then they had the action figure line that was, they were small, but they were pretty cool. But there are a lot of cool dragon toys from How to Train Your Dragon, and now they're doing the live action, which I don't know why, because the first films, the originals, are perfect. Perfect. Get your nephews together and watch the How to Train Your Dragon movies. The time jumps in between and the growth of all the characters, and it's amazing. It really is. The storyline's
I
fantastic.
I do really enjoy the design for Toothless,
Yes.
who looks like a hellbender salamander to me. And I was like, was
Yes.
that the inspiration for him? I'm not sure, but he looked really cool. Is there a skeleton dragon that gets introduced? I don't remember. There's some villain dragon, and I don't remember the design of him. But
Yeah, the big giant one. He's not a skeleton, but he's got the big tusks and
okay,
yeah,
did it
yeah.
glow in the dark? I remember there being a glow in the dark dragon that was offered, and
Yeah,
I couldn't find it.
right, yeah, they have some of them. I think they had a toothless that had glowing eyes and other
Mhm.
things. Yeah, it was cool. You know what my first favorite dragon was? And people think that I'm having some sort of weird recollection flashback. We talked about like with the Wampa commercial, you remember things.
Yes.
So everybody talks about, oh, I used to watch this, that, and the other thing on Saturday morning. But I used to get up super duper early. And I think it aired at like 6 o'clock. So I was the
Mhm.
only one watching it.
Mhm.
Or maybe I was dreaming about it. I don't know. But there was a show called The Giggle Snort Hotel.
Little Snort Hotel.
Giggle Snort Hotel, and
Huh.
the front desk man, the concierge for the hotel was a dragon.
Huh.
And he had, typical dragon face with the nostrils, and he was a puppet. It wasn't
Mhm.
animated, it was a puppet.
Mhm.
And he constantly had a flow of smoke coming out of his nostrils as he spoke. And it was just the most fun. Like, I got up as a kid, as a young kid, at 6 a.m. on Saturday to watch the Giggle Snort Hotel. Nobody ever remembers it, but that was my first favorite dragon, was the concierge at the Giggle Snort Hotel.
There's so many dragons to go around.
There are. You know what dragon toy, as we're starting to wrap up, I guess, there's a dragon toy I always wanted, and I never saw it when it was made, and I guess I maybe have seen it online, like on eBay or something, but I haven't seen it in person in 18 bazillion years. And that's Warlock from the Black Star line.
Warlock? I don't recall this either.
Oh, it's a good-looking toy, man. I've got the T-shirt with Black Star riding on Warlock, and man, Warlock is something to behold. It was the coolest. Like, Black Star was always that secondary toy line to He-Man, right? There was always, and then we had Black Star. But Warlock, that dragon, better than anything He-Man had to offer. Favorite dragon character? You know what? It's the Luck Dragon from the Never-Ending Story. And we never got Never-Ending Story toys. I wish we did.
Can't believe they made this movie for children, and then schools thought it was appropriate to gather multiple classrooms together to wheel out the TV, to make you watch Atreyu lose his horse.
I just got that T-shirt that says "Fight the Sadness," and it's him pulling the horse out of the mud.
And we never got toys for it. Why? Why
and the rock biter? Like, why want a rock biter?
Like big, strong hands.
I want my rock biter.
Oh, they could have predated Hulk hands with some big, strong hands.
Yeah,
we were robbed.
Absolutely. But now I've got like a 3D printed one that we got at CradleCon. I got a 3D printed Luck Dragon, so I've got something. But
that's right. That was a good find.
Yeah, I like him because, I don't know, he had those big emotive eyes, and he was caring. Like, he was a dragon, but he wasn't what you'd think of as a dragon. Like, he was very, there were a lot of well-spoken dragons. I mean, Smaug was very well-spoken. The Sean Connery dragon was really well-spoken. But, they didn't have that warmth. They didn't have the warmth that he had.
That's a good thing, and I like that he wasn't above being petty, because at the end of that movie, he absolutely causes a near miss with those kids. Take that, bullies! So good on him for not being above, getting a little bit of petty revenge for his buddy.
And how about you?
Future Tom here, cutting in, because unfortunately this was probably the end point of the amount of salvageable stuff for this episode. Hopefully it didn't sound too choppy. I tried my best to stitch together some of the areas that were okay sounding, but it left a little bit to be desired. So we will try again next week. But until then, thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you've got some dragon toys or toy lines that you enjoyed, share it with us. Our handle on Blue Sky is 2 Guys Talking Toys. That is the number 2, no G after the Talkin. That's the same for our Gmail. And also check us out on Instagram. Our handle is 2G Talking Toys. So until next time, take care, everybody.